I'm all in favor of keeping it simple. You don't need to be posting daily. You don't need to be hiring professional photographers and videographers all the time. You really just need to use social media in a way that lets your audience get to know you better.
This is Curb Appeal, a podcast for real estate professionals who are looking to build out their business and get more deals done. In each episode, we uncover what is and isn't working when it comes to scaling in the industry. Listen in and get actionable steps to grow your real estate brand, attract more business, and expand your footprint in the industry. Okay, let's get started.
Well, welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you guys listening in. I am here with the one and only Maris Callahan, the founder of The Social Broker, which is a social media and content membership and agency that's tailored to real estate agents. Maris, how are you?
Hey, well, good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. We've got a great discussion for you guys. We are going to be tailoring this topic around social media and lead generation. And Maris is our expert on this as she talks to real estate agents in and out every single day. So Maris, why don't you go ahead and just take a brief moment to introduce yourself, your agency, how you got involved in social media and the real estate world. We'd love to hear about it.
Well, thank you. Yes. I have been in the marketing space for about 16 years, started off in public relations and social media, and have always had an entrepreneurial streak and love working with small business owners. I was in-house as the head of communications at a real estate brokerage. And as much as I, enjoyed the corporate work I was doing, I found that what I really loved was working one-on-one with agents and teams where I could really make an impact and help agents grow their businesses using social media. I founded Social Broker in 2019, really to give agents their time back because you have enough going on. You have so much on your plate as a busy real estate agent, and social media, to do it correctly, can be a full-time job. So Social Broker has a membership where we give you the content strategies that you need to do social media on your own in a fraction of the time it would take otherwise. And if you're ready to delegate it altogether, then we can manage it for you.
That's awesome. And I know, just speaking to real estate agents also on a day in and day out basis, how valuable that is because their time is of the essence. Like their schedules are changing rapidly. There's what they plan to do tomorrow may not necessarily be what they're doing tomorrow. And so I know social media is kind of one of those pain points for them in making sure that they're getting content out there and they're building their marketing and their branding, but they don't necessarily have the time to do it. So with that, why don't we go ahead and just start talking about like the social media basics. So what tools do you use? Like how specifically is your business tailoring to them and assisting them in building their social media and their brand?
So really, at the end of the day, social media is sort of a long game. You will get out what you put in, and you're not going to see results right away. So I'm all in favor of keeping it simple. You don't need to be posting daily. You don't need to be hiring professional photographers and videographers all the time. You really just need to use social media in a way that lets your audience get to know you better. And social media really is your client's window into what it's like to work with you and who you are. So I always say, keep it simple and do what you can commit to. Because if it's complicated and if you have to use a ton of apps and you have to spend a ton of money hiring professionals and, photographs and, if it's complicated, you're just not going to do it. So really the tools that we use every day that my team and I use to create content for our clients and that we recommend that our members who are doing their own social use, I'm on Canva a lot. I love Canva for graphic design, for photo editing, and for making reels, which is my new favorite application of Canva. And I also do a lot of my content scheduling and management in the Facebook Creators.
That's awesome. I love Canva too. I definitely back that up 100%. It is such a time saver.
There's just so much out there, Rachel, that's like, you need to do this and you need all this equipment and you need the ring light and the lighting and the phone stand and you have to hire the photographer and the professional video. And it really doesn't need to be that complicated. What it needs to be is genuine and consistent. The clients that I work with probably know, everyone probably knows exactly what I'm going to say now, but I always talk about these three things as being like the most important to any social media strategy, whether you're doing Reels or TikTok or whatever you're doing, this never changes. But the foundation of your strategy should be consistency. And that doesn't mean posting 3 times a day. It means finding a cadence you can stick to and doing it. You want to be posting a variety of types of content. So variety, whether that comes down to using different types of media or, and it's not an or, it's or, could be both, posting different types of content so that people aren't getting bored seeing those same just listed posts again and again and again. And then the balance, you want to balance the business and the personal. I always say it's like when you're at a networking event, no one wants to get stuck talking to the person who only wants to talk about herself. But you don't want to get stuck talking to the person who is all work all the time either. You want to have the small talk, the conversation. I always say, think of the things that you would talk to a buyer client about when you're in the car between showings. It's not all business, but you're not going to talk about super private personal things either. It's maybe the kids, your hobbies, music you like, what kind of activities you do, favorite local businesses, coffee shop, what's your coffee order, things that are sort of essential to who you are. Show your personality, but without, being too private.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love hearing about adding in that personal element because I think ultimately at the end of the day, especially with everyone beginning to really pick up this sense of authenticity on social media, I think we've kind of put the whole facade behind us and we're really seeing people become really authentic and showcasing who they are on media platforms. And I think that's just really important when it comes to real estate agents specifically, because a big aspect to their job is communicating and connecting with people and building on those connections. And really, I think the best way to do that is to start with the personal, because as an agent that your client isn't going to necessarily connect with you because they don't know all of the information needed for the home selling or home buying process. That's what they're looking for you to do. But they may connect with you if you're a dog lover, if Starbucks is your favorite place to go, if you love this local boutique in your area, right? And I think those are the important connection points that if you start displaying that on your social media platform, that's where you're going to start seeing people come in and connect with you because they are in agreement with your likes and your hobbies.
It definitely, and I think it's really both, right? It's you want to have that personal content out there and make the connections. And then you want to have the business content out there so that it establishes you as an expert, as a thought leader. If you have a photo of you with your dog and the next post is a stat about interest rates, we all know what's going to get more traction. But the important part about having that interest rate post out there is that, someone who's scrolling the feed who's thinking of working with you might see that and they might be able to think, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. So that's where you do want to have that balance between the content that's engaging and the content that positions you as an expert at what you do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I want to take a brief moment and kind of go back to discussing the cadence, right? So I think that's a major pain point for not just real estate agents. I can particularly speak to probably any business out there on this regard. But when someone is starting to develop what that cadence is for them, are you finding that there is an average consistency for agents to at least get started with? So that's kind of part one to that question is there a general cadence you're seeing across the board? And then part two is, as part of that cadence, is it solely just a social post? Is it creating video? What does that actually look like when it comes to the mixture?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the cadence in your posting, it's really, I don't think there's a one size fits all formula so much as what can you reliably stick to. I just had a call with a mortgage lender client and we came up with a schedule that felt reasonable for him. And that was 1 reel per week and 2 feed posts per week. And I said, whenever you can, hop onto stories and share behind the scenes from your day, whether you're at a closing or at a baseball game with your kids. So it's really about finding that cadence that you feel comfortable sticking to, because social media can take a lot of time before you see results. It's the biggest frustration in my industry is that can take time. And, sometimes it's a year and a half before you actually see ROI. But when you do get that lead from social, that one lead could pay for your marketing for 2 years, because we're not selling shoes here. We're selling property. It's high value. So those leads can take time to pay off, but the real estate industry is quick, it's fast paced, and we're used to things happening really, instantaneously. So it can be frustrating to educate our clients that, even if you've been doing all the right things for a year, you might not have seen a lead yet. You also might never know how much business you're actually getting because of your social presence, because social media is going to help increase word of mouth referrals. At its core, social media is online word of mouth. My first boss told me that in 2007, and it hasn't changed. Social media, if Rachel's a real estate agent, and if I'm following her for a year, I'm consistently reminded that she's in real estate. And then my friend says, I'm thinking about moving. Do you know anybody? I'm going to say, you should call Rachel. She's going to call Rachel and say, my friend Maris recommended you. But she's not going to say, my friend Maris recommended you, because she's always seeing your Instagram posts and has been following you ever since she met you at so-and-so's barbecue. It's the leads that come from social media can be really indirect, which is why I think of social media first as a relationship building tool, and second as a lead generation tool. Because if you're not building the relationships, you're never going to get the leads.
That's fantastic. And let's elaborate on that a little bit more. How do you begin to build those relationships on social media? Because sometimes it can seem very static. And again, kind of going back to the time essence, should agents be engaging for hours on end, or what's that time frame? How do they start to build that community around their social media platforms?
So one of the most important things about social media is not the content you're creating, or if you're doing reels versus speed posts, or if you're using all the latest trends. The most important thing you can do on social media is comment on other people's posts. You want to be engaging regularly. That doesn't mean you need to spend hours or have it take over your whole life. But I say you want to spend at least 10 to 15 minutes a day going into your stories and engaging with stories, scrolling your feed and engaging with people who you're following, and then going into hashtags that you're using and engaging with other people who are using those hashtags. And certainly you want to be using local hashtags, not real estate hashtags, where you're only going to be, interacting with other realtors. That's okay too, because remember, you have buyers and they have sellers. So it's great to network with other realtors. But of course, you want to also expand your audience to, beyond your immediate sphere of influence. So it's really the engagement. You have to give to get, and you have to give about 10 times what you want to get back in order to really start seeing your engagement pick up momentum.
Yeah, I love that. Giving 10 times more than what you would get back. On that note, if I'm an agent and I'm engaging with people and I'm following these specific localized hashtags and making sure that I am putting my foot out there into the community, but I'm not immediately seeing results, just as we discussed before. It's taking some time before I'm really getting any traction. How do you help your agents, or just how should agents help themselves in keeping that momentum, right? And not getting burnt out on all these efforts that they're putting out there and not immediately seeing that return?
Yeah. So if you feel like you've been doing the same thing again and again and again, and you're not getting results, there's sort of two ways to look at it. It depends on how long you've been at it. If you can honestly say you've been super consistent with engaging proactively, posting regularly, and doing that consistency, variety, balance, incorporating all of that into your strategy, then you might think about what you're not doing. Is it that you haven't tried making a reel yet, or you haven't really been showing your face on posts? Maybe you've been posting a lot of stock photography and graphic designs, but there's not a lot of you in your feed. So that's where I tell clients to start thinking about, what are the other things? What else can we kind of layer in to help move the needle? And then the other question is, how often are you really doing what you need to be doing? I remind myself this all the time, right? Because I manage Instagram and I create content for, you know, dozens of other people. And sometimes I'm the shoemaker with no shoes, right? The social media manager who I'm friendly with, we all joke, you don't want to look at your social media manager's Instagram because we're all putting ourselves last. We're doing our clients, we're taking care of our clients first, and then we worry about our own. But I fall into this too. I think, wow, I haven't been growing. Why aren't I getting as many new followers? Okay, because even though I do engage and I am on Instagram every day, I'm not consistent at setting that timer for 15 minutes every day when I get very busy with my clients' work. So it is important to really be honest with yourself and say, like, am I giving this a fair shot? Has this had the opportunity to work? Because I've seen clients who, trust us to manage their social media, and it takes sometimes over a year before they can attribute, business to social media. Sometimes it takes even longer, but we always see some benefit if they really stick with it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I have a quick question on this topic too. When it comes to putting forward all of these efforts, do you find it's best for agents to try and audit what they're doing to keep track of their efforts to see if they're actually gaining traction or not? Do you encourage them to be part of their own analytics process?
Definitely. Yeah. Instagram and Facebook make it really simple to kind of look at, particularly on Instagram, which I know is where most people spend a lot of their time on social media. But on Instagram, it's super easy to go into your insights and take a look at what your most popular posts have been, because there you can kind of see themes. Like, for example, I know that when I post a funny quote or a fun kind of joke or a funny line, like I think in 2020, I posted something about, real estate agents are all saying, and this home has a beautiful backdrop for your Zoom meetings. Things like that, that I know my aunt likes. They like realtor humor. So when I post something like that, even if it took me 2 seconds to do, I know that I'll get engagement because that's what my audience likes to see. That means, looking at your insights and maybe incorporating more of that to continue to get traction. Or as like the, social media landscape changes, think about how can I take those popular posts? How can I take that content, that high performing content, and turn it into a different format? So maybe it's, looking at reels, and I am a little torn on reels. Everyone's saying, do I have to do it? Do I have to do it? And no, you don't have to do it. You can grow on social without doing video, but you will grow faster. And video does help you make, human to human connections with the people who are following you. So it is important to find how you can make those connections. But your insights will tell you a lot about, what people want to see and hear from you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And actually leads right into my next question, which is trending formats. So I think it's pretty safe to say that video is the top performing post format out there. So we've seen a massive shift,
Right.
especially with like TikTok coming out and Instagram incorporating, kind of following TikTok's back and incorporating reels into their formats and posting. So are you seeing any other trends coming forward besides video, or is video the thing to really be focused on right now?
I think it's important to think about how we're using content. I think, the pandemic certainly changed the way people were consuming content in all forms, and video really did become the norm for so many people because for months we were not supposed to be doing face to face interaction. So I think that, people really did become comfortable watching video content, and people did become comfortable making connections through video. So social media is no different. The way people are consuming content is changing. Maybe right now they're using Instagram Reels and TikTok as that format, but, that's certainly not to say that that's always going to be the case. The trends that I'm really seeing right now beyond any one content format, people want quick, short, and engaging content. Nobody's watching your 5-minute video about tax proration. They want quick hits. They want you to be brief and engaging. That might mean instead of sitting in a room doing a video, face to face, maybe you're walking and talking, or maybe you're doing 3 clips filmed from 3 different places in your home so that there's quick action and movement. People are really looking for like short, bite-sized, easy to consume content regardless of where, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, the long captions, we want to use those more and more sparingly and really think of how to deliver information in a visual and concise way. And then another thing that I'm seeing is that people are really reacting more to personality driven content than content that feels like advertising. And I wouldn't say this is new, but I do think that it's become, really stronger. People really want to see you. They want to hear from you. If they're following you, it's because they like you or they want to get to know you. So really kind of putting your personality out there and not being afraid to have a little fun with content, even though it's business, people still want to be entertained. And if you can entertain while you educate, then that's a really engaged viewer.
Yeah, you get that infotainment. How are you encouraging people to start into video formats? Because some agents out there aren't even posting, and social media is pretty new to them in general and really trying to build that platform. But I know it's kind of a headache to think about, oh, there's this new format of content that these programs and these platforms are really pushing out, which is video. How are you encouraging agents to also pick up that video content to share on their social channels?
Yeah, so I think definitely it's practice makes perfect. Nobody is going to pick up their phone and record their first video and say, wow, I knocked that out of. It takes time to become comfortable with any new thing. So I just say practice. Even if you need to make 10 videos, put your phone on a little tripod or a stand and just practice talking into your phone. That will help you get comfortable with the format. I used to do PR and I've been a guest on morning shows dozens of times. I've been on live television. It still was awkward for me when I first started doing Instagram stories because it's a different format. You're not in when I would be doing TV segments and I would be able to say, okay, the cameras aren't here. I'm just having a conversation with this news anchor. There's no news anchor sitting next to you when you're making an Instagram reel or an Instagram story. So you do have to get comfortable with the format, kind of staring at yourself. Where do I look? What do I do? And it takes time to kind of get those best practices down pat. So I say just start practice. If you don't want to show up with if you don't want to make a face cam or talking head type of video right away, think about other types of videos. Realtors, easy. You could do property tours. You can even go into Canva, take your beautiful listing photos and make a slideshow set to music. We've been making these for our clients. We've been giving our members templates and they're performing so well. And it's really just a time saver. And you can take advantage of the new content format. Newish reels are not that new anymore, but you can take advantage of a new to you content format without putting yourself so far outside of your comfort zone. And then once you start to feel like you're getting, comfortable with the format and comfortable with the Reels camera, then you can think about, going on and doing more basic camera video.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one thing I always think about when we talk about, it is kind of awkward to just talk to a camera and know that no one's there on the other side. One, there will be when you post it, right? You will eventually have an audience who's going to be seeing this. But I think the bigger element to that is people, again, want to see that authenticity. And if you, in all of your videos, are constantly sounding like, hello, my friends, A, B, C, and D, like, yada, 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 here's my tips and tricks, and you seem very robotic in a sense, I think that almost is more of a turnoff than if you were to start talking and maybe you stumble over some of your words and you're like, hold up, guys, like, I gotta restart. I just don't even know what came out of my mouth. Like, I think that's just so much more relatable. And I think something else that's really funny is bloopers, right? So if you mess up 1,000 times, don't think you can't use those video pieces. Just redistribute them as a blooper reel. I mean, people love those.
Exactly. And remember, people expect you to be a realtor, right? Not a reality TV star. I always say, if you wanted to be a reality TV star, you should have journalism school instead of getting a real estate license. There are, some people who are really good at using video to inform and educate and entertain, and that is wonderful. But not everybody needs to be an influencer. Not everyone needs to be, posting every day and getting thousands of views and, kind of leading the trends. Sometimes just showing up has a major impact, and just being there and having a presence so that people who should think of you when it's time to time to hire a realtor are calling you. And that can be just as impactful as having, 90,000 followers and everyone knowing your name in the industry. Certainly don't be afraid, be a little silly, post the bloopers. If you stumble and make a mistake, just keep going. And it's interesting because video, people have a lot more forgiveness for like a video that is not a professional video than they do for photography. Now, I find, and this is certainly just my observation from my clients' accounts, professional photos perform way better than a photo that I take on my iPhone. But I don't see professional video performing any better than a video that you do on your own at home. I do have clients that, hire videographers. And if that's what helps you create, then great, hire that videographer, but it's not necessary. All you need is a phone stand and you don't need to spend a lot of money. You could prop your phone up against a vase or a water bottle on your desk and, you can get really creative. You don't need to run out and buy a $100 ring light, but you need to have some good natural lighting. You want to stand facing the window. You don't want to, have that window behind you and look washed out. You need to have a stable, phone, whether it's stand or you just have something to prop your phone up against. And then you need a good Wi-Fi connection. And that's all you need to create good reels.
Yeah. Gosh, there were so much good points that you just made. So on the topic of video and photo and there being a forgiveness element to people who watch videos, I think that even can help agents develop what their content strategy is. So yeah, you absolutely can post your just listed and just sold, but make sure you are using professional photography and like top of the line, higher quality images. And then all of your videos can be that more authentic, personalized piece where maybe you've got a blooper or two. And I think part of the reason for that is that when you're looking at a still image, it's easier for you to pick up on the mistakes that have been made, the Photoshop errors, or whatever the case may be. Whereas in video, usually with the videos that we're seeing that are out there, you can clearly tell someone just picked up the camera and was just like, I'm just going to record while I'm taking my walk today. Right. And so I think there's that barrier that comes down of this isn't meant to be a professional video. Whereas when you look at these images, your mind is already assuming it should be a perfect visual.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people will start out with good intentions, but it's also if you're trying to have every video be the perfect professionally produced, production, then that's going to be harder to sustain than it is to say, all right, it's Monday morning and I've got my, I'm ready. I've got my phone and I've, have to get dressed up anyway to go out with clients. So I'm going to do a quick market update and it's going to take me 10 seconds to record and I'm posting it regardless of whether I like the way my face looks. That is going to be a lot easier to do to, have to kind of make it a big production every time. I feel the same way with photography. Yes, you want to have that professional brand photography of you kind of in your business, not just the professional glamour shot, not just the headshot, but, every month or so, every year, do a new batch of branding photos. So you have social media content and marketing content for the full year ahead. You can batch video too. If there's one day of the month where you can carve out 3 hours and just, roll through, 10 reels that you want to make, then you can do that all in a day and really make the most of your time. And then you always have a big content to pull from. It's really, again, about finding what works for you and being consistent. You don't have to do everything. You do have to pick something that you can do consistently, whether it's reels or, being on stories or, delivering timely market information, and stick to that if you want to really, kind of be memorable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, I think just the main points from our conversation thus far are really just get started. Get started and choose something that you can consistently be doing. And just like you said, it doesn't have to be this huge major production where you're posting 4 videos a day and 10 posts between 3 days or however much. It just has to be consistent. Like people just ultimately at the end of the day need to know that you are going to show up. And I think that is so valuable. And it's just such a key takeaway for anyone listening in to take with them is that just show up for your audience because you just at that point never know who is watching you and who can turn into that future client of yours. On that note, I want to kind of flip the script just a little bit and talk about, so we've discussed how agents can approach social media, but I want to flip it to see it from a buyer's perspective. And so when it comes to that social media strategy, what is that process a buyer goes through from that point of they just saw your contact and your social platforms for the first time, all the way through however long it takes to potentially turn into that client? What is that buyer's journey?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think it can really vary, right? I think it all depends on what your individual process looks like too. Because there's no one size fits all formula for social media success. And just like every buyer is going to be slightly different. There are probably people who are ready to make a quick decision. And then it's just like, any buyer you take out. There are people who are going to buy that second house that they saw. And there are people who you're going to show, 5 dozen homes to before they finally make a decision. So maybe not in this market, but one thing I was just talking about with a client is how the millennials right now are the largest group of home buyers. And so as they're actually, even millennials are starting to move up. They're starting to sell their first home and buy, that second home, that maybe forever home or something that's a higher price point. And then we've got Gen Z coming up into the pool of home buyers, and they are digital natives. They grew up knowing nothing other than the internet and social media. So where, generationally, there are, agents like, you might think, okay, well, built my business without social media. I might not need this. My buyers, I have clients, they're not looking for me on social media. Their kids and grandkids are, and they're going to be recommending people that they, have in their sort of sphere. I have clients who come to me and they said, I don't need social media to get new clients. I have a team and, we want to get leads from my team. And I also have, clients who said, my contemporaries, my peers, they're already downsizing, they're retiring. Like it's their kids, his business I really want to capture. And if I'm not on social media, I know that I'm going to lose that lead. Maybe like a longtime client says to their, son or daughter, you should use this agent. Just like, I know if I'm not on social media, I'm going to lose those leads to the 30 somethings who are using social media. And it's not about having like that all, best presence or that like, perfect digital funnel. It's really just about having the presence showing up. And to your point, just getting started so that you can see what works and what you need to tweak. I have a client where at the end of last year, now typically at the end of the year, December, social media engagement really starts to drop. People are kind of trying to unplug, tune out, busy. There's a lot of advertisers spending their end of year dollars on, advertising. So you're really competing with people who are paying for views. So it's tough to, to really, to break through a lot of the social media noise towards the end of the year. And then January rolled around, February, and one of my clients said, we're not seeing kind of the momentum that we were before. What should we do? And I said, okay, here's what we're doing well. And here's what we need from you. We needed branding photography so we could start showing this client's face more in their social media feed. We needed more video content. So the client started providing more video that we could create reels from. And then, of course, we kept doing the things that were working. And that was really consistent, proactive engagement to build the following and build the relationship with the followers that the client already had. And, now we're seeing huge engagement and reach each month because we found a formula that works. Not to say that that's always going to work. In 6 months, we might have another conversation and say, okay, we did this back, earlier in 2022. And now there's something new that we need to try. So it is constantly, sort of consistency, but also evaluating what's working best so you can do more of that and what maybe you don't need to do as much of.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, you've brought so many good points to light in the sense that social media, as I also like to refer to it as, it is your digital resume, right? You're not going to these home buyers and sellers and, taking their sheet and handing them an actual resume for them to review and see if you're the right fit for them. Like they're going to immediately, especially when you talk about millennials and Gen Z, they're going to immediately head to your
Right.
social media. They're going to go to Instagram. They're going to see if you're on Facebook, if you're on TikTok, and they are going to vet you on what your social channels are providing them. And so that's a fantastic
Right.
point
Right.
just to like get across. And then additionally as well, you ultimately have to meet their needs, and needs change throughout the year. It's not something that's consistent that you can say, okay, I know that I need to give them information on loans, right? Yeah, that's kind of a piece of evergreen material that a lot of people need to know. But for me as a home buyer, I might need to know about loans when I'm buying my first house. But when I do turn around to get my second, third, fourth, I don't need that information anymore. So because I know it, how are you going to speak to me at that point in that phase in my life? And to your point, it just means that you have to constantly be evaluating what you're putting out there and evaluating the type of content and information so that you can continue to not only gain new leads, but also retain the clients that you may have already had.
Right. And thinking about the questions that your clients are asking you is a big way to, to kind of cater your social media content to your audience. What are the things that your people want to know? Is it, is there specific information you need to share about what it's like to live in your community? Really being a resource locally and in your subject matter. But if you know all your clients right now, everyone you've worked with in the last 6 months is a move up buyer, then that's what you should be talking about on social media. You should be sharing social proof. You should be sharing client stories. You should be giving tips. What are the issues you're running into? What is a roadblock that you ran into and how did you solve it? If social media doesn't need to be all pretty all the time, right? You want to be real and like if a deal falls through, get on stories and talk about what happened, obviously without sharing anyone's personal or financial information. Happen all the time. And, I'll share another example. I have a client who shared something on Instagram about buying, helping her buyers find an off market new construction property the day it went live or the day before it was going to go live. It was off market, but like she was basically the first one in the door.
Yeah.
And they got their client in before it could hit the market. But another person who had been following her on Instagram saw that and was like, we're going to pick her instead of some other agents because we see that she has experience helping buyers get new construction or rehabs. And they ended up buying a rehab. And that was, it was that post about that real world experience. It wasn't a glowing testimonial from the client. It wasn't, a fancy, well, it was a real actually, but it was just the photo of the house that's still kind of under construction. And someone else saw that and said, that's what I want to do. So they hired her and now they're under contract again. So it's those social proof, that real world examples is really important. And even if it's not in the form of like a glowing client testimonial, just talking about who you helped and how you've helped them shows people that you are the expert for them, and you might have different specialties. This person knows how to navigate new construction. So that's what she posted about. Maybe you're really good at helping downsizers find 55 and older communities. Maybe you work with a lot of VA loan buyers, or, I have someone who specializes in military relocation, whatever it is that you're, best at. Those are the things you want to show on social. Those are the things you want to talk about on social.
And I think that really drives the point home in the sense of the connection you build on your social channels, even though you might not see it at the moment that you post it. You might not see it for a couple of weeks. You might not see it for a couple months, but those are the types of content that are going to really generate leads for you on social channels. I mean, just posting about a new construction and how that process went, right? It's not like when your client originally put that up, they've had this intention of, I am only putting this up because I know it's going to connect with someone. There's always that potential in the back of your head, but they likely just posted it to post it and was like, I'm just going to share this experience. And the great part about that is, the great part about that is that it's so authentic with how it was delivered. Again, it was right in the moment. It wasn't necessarily planned. But at the end of the day, it earned that lead's trust because it was like, wow, this is she's just letting it out there. Like they are just mentioning how this home buying new construction process went. And that's exactly what I need I need someone who knows what they're doing. And it's just a real human. It's a person. And they're willing to explain that process to me without it being this big production or this big show.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think, there's so many ways to just be memorable and to be unique. And a lot of that starts with who you are and what your personality is and what kind of experience you deliver that the next person doesn't. I've recommended agents to friends and, I work with agents, so I can never say, here's this one person to use. I always have to give options, but that's it. I see different people resonate with different people. A handful of Chicago agents who I frequently will give to friends who are looking to buy or sell. And everyone will pick a different personality. And it's not it's not a bad thing. It's just that different people click and different people are looking for different types of expertise and different types of
Yeah.
service.
Do you find that agents tend to try to take on too much when we talk about these niches and these different target audiences?
We're all in the service industry, right? We're all in service-based businesses. I'm a client. My job is client service. As a realtor, you want to help as many people as you can. But I think that just because you claim one niche or you have expertise in one area, that doesn't mean you can't help people outside of that space.
Hmm.
My specialty is working with realtors, and I have clients that are outside the real estate space who I've met various ways and felt there was a fit. Just because I mostly serve realtors doesn't mean that I can't help a different type of business, but it means that I'm not actively, pursuing those leads. And I think with thinking about your expertise, it might not be a special, you might not want to say, okay, I only help first time home buyers, but maybe what sets you apart is that you explain the process in a certain way, or maybe you have a certain method that to kind of call maybe you have like the Rachel method of working with buyers. You have a special checklist when they get in your car, they get to listen to a certain type of music they want, or
Hmm.
maybe you have snacks in the back seat of to choose from. What does that like experience look like, and what is your process? That's what someone is going to be attracted to. Another example I always like to use is when I was buying my home, our realtor, my boyfriend was off doing something else and couldn't come with me to this open house that I drove by. So I called my realtor and she said, I'm out riding bikes with my daughter, but we're in the hood. We'll come by. So she showed up, in her like jeans and flip flops. They were riding bikes in the neighborhood, sweaty, like her 9-year-old was with her. And they came with me to the open house. And that's the kind of experience that you get, right? She's going to drop what she's doing and come meet you at the open house. That's, her dedication to her clients. Now, if all of her social media was pictures of her in a blazer and heels, like in fancy downtown buildings, well, that experience that she's showing on social media doesn't match up with the experience she's providing. So that's why, and someone who is going to want that like all business downtown, stylish, glam, sophisticated kind of presence, that's going to resonate with somebody. There's someone who's selling a condo in the Gold Coast who wants that sort of persona. But for my partner and I, we didn't need that. We wanted an agent who was just going to be dedicated. And it doesn't matter to us if she's casual and laid back or if she's, all business all the time. So it's not so much about saying, this is I target exact audience, but this is my personality and this is the experience you'll get when we work together. And knowing that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. Someone might pick a different agent, just they personalities click better. But social media is a great place to just find and make connections with the people who really will, be your people.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. I mean, ultimately, that question is what impression are you going to leave on a buyer or a seller, right? Because that clearly made a huge impression on you for your realtor to show up full bike gear with their
Yeah.
kid. I mean, normally what we think that thought process of what a realtor is they show up in their snazzy car and they're all suited up. And it's like, that is such a different picture from what you would normally think
Really?
about. So I think a good, question agents can ask themselves to get them started into this niche is, what impression do I want to leave on anyone who interacts with me, right? Because ultimately it's a connection business. So you can't just focus on, I'm just going to target, strictly home buyers and home sellers. No, you're going to build a community. And how are you leaving that impression on a community so that when someone is ultimately ready to buy or sell, they turn to you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I want to respect your time. I thank you so much for being here. I want to open the floor to you. If there are any final points you want to drive home with social media or how it brings leads, whatever the case may be, anything else you want to share with everyone before we sign off?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, thinking of social media as a relationship building tool versus a lead generating tool really is the key to using it in the most meaningful way. Showing up in an authentic way, letting your personality shine through, balancing that business life and personal life, letting people get to know, like, and trust you is really how social media will have the most impact on your bottom line. And the way, how to do it, that's going to look a little bit different for everybody.
Just get started, right? Get that video going, girl. If you've got your cup of coffee and no makeup on, who cares?
It's so true. People always think, I've had so many agents say to me, I need to lose 30 pounds before I take video or photo of myself. Like, you look great. First of all, you look great to everyone else. No one else is going to be as critical to yourself as you will be to yourself. But at the end of the day, if this is what you look like now, people are seeing you regardless of whether you're on video or in person. And
Right.
if we all wait, we look perfect, we'll never, perfect doesn't exist. So it's really just about kind of taking the opportunity to try something new, push yourself outside your comfort zone. And, it will always be well received by the people who are your circle.
Yep. Be authentic to who you are now. That's who they're going to end up meeting in person. There's no time to wait. Just get started. Just be you.
Right.
So awesome.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk social media with me today. I do have, for any listeners out there, I've got a promo code that you can use if you're trying to schedule a photo shoot with Virtuance. If you use social 0622, you can plug that in when you are going online at virtuance.com to order. And that will give you 15% off your first order with Virtuance. So we're excited to offer that for you guys.
To get you started on social media with all those gorgeous photos that you'll be taking, you can take a look at thesocialbroker.com to learn more about our membership. And if you are interested in having all of the content and strategies you need to DIY your social media, you can use code SOCIAL15 for $15 off your first month.
Fantastic. So many great deals for you guys. We are setting you up to rock out on all of your social media platforms. Thank you again, Maris, and everyone else. Have a fantastic day, week, whatever time it is.
Thanks for listening to Curb Appeal. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. This podcast is brought to you by Virtuance. Whether you market one listing a year or thousands, Virtuance is your go-to real estate photographer for consistent, magazine-quality images that are scientifically proven to get results. For more episodes of Curb Appeal, please visit virtuance.com/podcast.